Finally, diving into the juicy topic narcissists. I've spent most of my life getting hooked on jerks. Not just once or twice, consistently. Put me in a room with 1,000 men and I'd unerringly pick the most toxic bastard in the crowd. And for years I tried to figure out why. Today I'm going to show you that this isn't a personal failure, it's a system design. You don't randomly choose toxic people. You're programmed to identify and connect with them. It's commonly assumed that this is about childhood wounds or emotional damage, but that's not quite right. It's a neural architecture, system level conditioning. What feels like irresistible attraction is actually recognition software running in your brain. You encounter someone, something clicks, and you get that familiar spark of this person is interesting. That click isn't random. Those compatibility protocols weren't written by you. They were installed by a parasitic system that organizes human behavior into feedback loops of dominance and submission. You're not choosing these people because you're broken. You're following pathways laid out by cognitive malware. Think of it like this: you're a socket, the narcissist is a plug. The reason they fit isn't spiritual, karmic, or even psychological, it's architectural. You were literally built to connect. But let's get more specific about this architecture. Think of the narcissist as an empty shell without a living core. You're the opposite, a living core without proper boundaries. They're drawn to the aliveness in you like a puzzle piece. It feels like two halves of a whole. But what's really happening is that the narcissist had to destroy their own core to become part of the system, like Agent Smith. Your living essence both captivates and infuriates them because it's proof of what they had to sacrifice. First, they try to possess your aliveness, to merge with it completely. But here's the problem: being alive means being autonomous. Even in the most extreme fusion, you remain a separate person. The core can't be fully controlled or owned. This inevitably disappoints the narcissist, and of course, that's your fault. So, when possession fails, the goal shifts to destruction. If I can't have you, nobody can. In their internal logic, this is justice. If they had to kill the living part of themselves to integrate into the system, then you should too. Sometimes the core does get enslaved, but then it stops being alive. The narcissist gets disappointed again and discards the broken toy. Your early experiences didn't damage your true self, they formatted you. Trauma isn't a wound in this model, it's an installation process. A neural operating system being written in real time, creating specific behavioral pathways, response patterns, and compatibility protocols. Codependency, fawn response, limerence, all part of the same software package. The system needs complementary roles to function, so it creates them. Then it runs a compatibility search and calls the result attraction. But why does the system need these pairs? Simple. Parasitic structures require hosts that don't resist. A narcissist codependent dynamic serves multiple functions. It creates manageable anxiety, reproduces hierarchical thinking, normalizes boundary violations, and keeps both parties emotionally dependent on external validation rather than developing internal coherence. This is why the myth of twin flames, soulmates, and missing pieces gets pushed so hard. It keeps you looking for a completion within the system instead of questioning why you feel incomplete in the first place. And all the romantic bullshit saturating our culture, is preparing you for exactly these relationships. It is essentially a training manual for narcissistic dynamics. The entire romantic narrative teaches you to ignore red flags, chase unavailable people, and mistake intensity for intimacy. There is no healthy relationship inside this network. There are only better masked versions of the same symbiotic dysfunction. You can learn boundaries, go no contact, do therapy for years, but unless you see the entire architecture, you'll just find more sophisticated version of the same dynamic. What you experience as chemistry is actually a network protocol running in your neural hardware. The spark you feel, that's the recognition software identifying compatible programming. Two pieces of malware syncing up. And you can verify this. Narcissistic relationships follow identical patterns. They use the same phrases, the same manipulation tactics, the same cycle of idealization and devaluation. This isn't lack of creativity. It's a parasitic neural network running the same program across multiple hosts. When you realize your unique toxic relationship is actually a template that thousands of others have experienced word for word, the illusion of personal connection completely dissolves. And here's the really disturbing part. Once you're in it, you literally lose control. You know you should leave. You can see the manipulation happening. You understand it's toxic, but it's like someone hacked your consciousness. You can't act logically. And that's not a metaphor. That's literally what's happening. The system has override access to your decision making processes. So, if you've ever felt stupid or weak for being unable to leave these relationships or for getting into them in the first place, you can stop beating yourself up. This has nothing to do with you. Most people who think they've never found healthy relationships have actually just never successfully integrated into the parasitic system. Their neural architecture kept rejecting the downloads. What they interpreted as romantic failure was actually biological wisdom refusing to participate in a corrupted network. I had a therapist once who argued with me when I announced I was done participating in a circus called relationships. She insisted I was depriving myself out of fear, that bad experiences don't have to repeat, all the usual therapeutic bullshit. I didn't know about the system back then, but I could sense this wasn't just coincidence. And continuing the same patterns without understanding the underlying mechanics would have been spectacularly stupid. But we've already covered psychologists and their science in another video. The issue isn't that you're broken and need fixing. The issue is that you're networked and need disconnecting. This is why individual therapy fails with these patterns. You can't solve a network problem with individual solutions. You can't debug a distributed system by examining one node. And therapy itself operates within the same parasitic system. It's trying to fix you so you can better participate in the very structure that created the problem. The problem isn't in your psychology, it's in the architecture you're plugged into. Every time you try to heal within the system, you're just optimizing your performance as a network component. You become a better socket, but you're still a socket. The issue isn't your trauma. Trauma is just how the parasitic system manifests. It operates with ruthless logic, and it's nearly impossible to outmaneuver through willpower, raising your self esteem, or learning to love yourself, which is its own separate bullshit I've already dissected elsewhere. You can't reprogram yourself out of this because you're not the problem. The network is the problem. The attraction works because both ends are manufactured by the same system. Remove yourself from the manufacturing process, and suddenly there's nothing to connect to. This isn't about healing, fixing, or becoming a better version of yourself. If you're drawn to assholes, it's probably a sign that you're actually alive, and definitely not an asshole yourself. It's about recognizing that the entire framework is corrupted and throwing the whole virus in the garbage where it belongs. I understand you might be wondering, but what about love? If all of this is programming, what's real? That question deserves separate consideration, and I'm preparing a dedicated video on this topic.